Hey there everyone! Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe. For better results, don't forget to repeat the sentence out loud. Dog, dog. A dog is a man's best friend. A dog is a man's best friend. This dog likes music. This dog likes music. Puppy, puppy. A puppy is a baby dog. A puppy is a baby dog. Puppies are super cute. Puppies are super cute. Cat, cat. Cats are independent. Cats are independent. Kitten, kitten. A kitten is a baby cat. A kitten is a baby cat. Kittens and puppies are playful. Kittens and puppies are playful. Guinea pig, guinea pig. Guinea pigs like to eat plants, vegetables, and fruits. Guinea pigs like to eat plants, vegetables, and fruits. Guinea pigs are small. Guinea pigs are small. Pig, pig. Piglet, piglet. A piglet is a baby pig. A piglet is a baby pig. Duck, duck. Duckling, duckling. A duckling is a baby duck. A duckling is a baby duck. What color is this duckling? Chicken, chicken. This chicken can play music. This chicken can play music. Chick, chick. A chick is a baby chicken. A chick is a baby chicken. Chicks and ducklings are much alike. Chicks and ducklings are much alike. Which one do you find more beautiful? Answer in the comments below. What's your favorite animal? Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye! Hey there everyone, thanks for watching.
All right.
Hello everybody, welcome to our live call here. I'm here with Kris Amerikos, one of the greatest English teachers of the world.
Oh, thank you.
And today you're gonna see that he's not the English teacher, the biggest English teacher of the world, for no reason. He's a great guy, and I've been watching some of his seminars and learning a lot. And that's why I decided to invite him to join us today. He also watched our review I made on the channel about his method, and that's how we connected. So, thanks, Kris, for being here.
Thank
Um,
you.
Welcome to the English room.
It's a nice room. Especially
And
behind you. I like the design behind you and this
oh, thanks.
run.
I also like your background. Be awesome today.
Yeah, helps. I try to do that every day. So
That's great. That's great, Kris. And Kris, I'd like to invite you to introduce yourself a little better for those who still don't know your work. Because I don't
yeah.
know, here in Brazil, most people don't speak English, fluent English. So I think people are a little afraid, of watching an entire seminar in English. So what can you
Yeah.
tell us about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me on the program again. And just quickly about myself, I guess. I grew up moving around to different countries when I was a little kid, and so I had to learn how to deal with different people from around the world. I was born in Germany, and both my parents are American, but I was born in Germany, and so when we moved back to the United States when I was like 1 year old, I don't remember. Um, and my parents only speak English, so like I never learned German. I don't know any German, but when we moved back to the States when I was 1 year old, everyone called me the kid from Germany because I just was born there, Uh, and so it kind of was an interesting thing that happened in my life because each place that I went, it was like I was the guy who was from a different place. And I always had to think about this, like how people act differently, how people speak differently, so that I could try to blend in with the new group of people. Because, English is very different too. In different places where you go, people speak very differently. So this was kind of my childhood experience with language and different kinds of people. I lived in Italy. I lived in a bunch of different states in the United States, including Hawaii. And then after I finished college, university, I moved over to Russia, and I lived there for 8 years, and that's where I opened a language school. And then I moved from offline language school to online language school and started working online. And now everyone has to work online, right? So
So I guess you speak Russian, right?
chut chut. A little bit.
Okay. Do you speak any other language?
Uh, I don't. I don't really think I speak any other language, but I've at different points in my life I've studied a lot of languages. Like in school, I studied Latin, Italian, Spanish, French, Romanian, um, and then yeah, and then I lived in Italy for some period of time, so I could speak when I lived there. But you know the rule: if you don't use it, you lose it.
All
So
right.
yeah.
And thinking about all your learning experience with language, did you do you think there is a better method to learn it because you were exposed to Italian, Russian, maybe some German, right? So, what do you think? Was it different from, for example, when you were learning in school? Was it a good method? And what do you think?
You know, in the American schools that I like where I grew up and I went to school where I studied languages, the foreign languages for me that I studied were Italian, French, Spanish. So just these Romance languages, right? So it's really just one type of language. And I think when you think about learning another language, it's important to know where you start from. Like it's much easier for an English speaker to learn Spanish than Chinese. And and I'm sure that you understand this and the people watching on your channel understand this because you have so many Spanish speaking countries near you and it's so similar that there's a lot of things that you can understand just from starting with Portuguese, right? Uh, so so yeah, I think that the schools in the United States actually are, when I was going to school, I don't think that the language programs were very good. Because when I went to Russia, I noticed that the school systems there and their language education programs, people who studied there could actually speak. They could actually communicate. They could actually go do things in real life and use this skill. But in the United States schools, it was kind of like there's this land far away and people say this and people speak like that. It wasn't something real, and I think that that's one part of our methods that you follow too, is like you have to live the language. It has to be something active that you actually put into practice, or else it's not like, what are you using it for, right?
That's it. And here in Brazil is the same story. We grow up without learning any second language, and they try to teach us English in public schools and private schools, but usually it's just the verb to be. So we spend like 3 4 years learning the verb to be, and by verb to be I mean just I am, you are, he is, she is. And today,
Uh-huh.
guys, guess what? We're gonna learn the verb to be. I am, you are, just simple present, not even the simple past,
Uh-huh.
and not even why we're learning the verb to be. We don't know that. Like, we don't know we can make present continuous sentence with verb to be, or that we can use this for that. No, we just go there and kind of memorize the verb to be and go through some songs and translate them. So in Brazil, we usually, in most schools, we just learn through translation. And there are
Mm-hmm.
even teachers who don't speak English, but they give English classes. So
Yeah.
it's very common here because when you go to the university to learn how to teach English, they don't teach you English. They teach you how to teach English, but they don't teach you the language. So they expect you to take some extra course, in order to learn. And that's why, for example, in my course, I have many English teachers who don't speak English, but they are willing to learn, and that's great because many teachers simply don't learn because they say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna just teach my students using translation, and during the whole 3 years they will be with me, they will just learn verb to be, so I don't need to really speak English."
Yeah.
And when you get to our course here, what you see is a lot of this mentality there because they want to sell. So what they do is they give you a quick fix, like, oh yeah, translate this key sentence and then memorize them. and you're gonna be able to travel all around. And that's not really what happens, you know? You're starting a conversation and somebody says, "Oh, how cool! What is like living in your town?" And then you say, "Yeah, I'm learning English." It doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah, no,
like.
I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point. That and I have experienced that too. When I was in Russia and some other countries, I saw that it's the same. That sometimes an English teacher doesn't really know a lot, doesn't have a lot to teach. But I think it's also important, like in our topic today about translations, speaking about translations and learning and teaching, that like there are some levels of learning where like you give the example of to be. Maybe you don't have to do it for 3 years, right? But at some point, like you can't just say I am, I am, I am, I am, and people be like, oh, now I know what that means. Right? Like somewhere along the line, someone had to translate something to
All
get
right.
the movement started from first like language to second language, right?
Okay, that's an approach. In my method, usually I don't translate at all from the
Yeah.
beginning. They start with no translation and they have to figure it out. So, for example, I show the objects, I put them in real context, and I work with expanding the comfort zone. Like, oh, you went to school and you learned like my name is,
Mm-hmm.
and you learned the word mother. So if I ask you, "Oh, what's your mother's name?" Mother. And my mother is Maria. What's your mother's name? Usually the student connects the dots. So they don't need to translate. Of course, they will translate inside of their head, you know, because in the beginning, that's what we do. We
Right.
translate
Right.
everything. But I create the habits of not translating. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how they end up thinking in English. And that's something I saw in your method too. You also say, "Oh yeah, it's important for you to start working in ways for you to think in English." But I'd like to listen from you, to hear from you, if it's better learning English with or without translation. Don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid of saying that it would be better learning with translation, just because in my channel I always say it's better learning without it.
Uh-huh.
I just would like to hear your opinion about that, your
So
perception.
yeah, you know, I'd like to qualify it a little more to add some more details, not with or without translation, but I'd like to say that there's a method of learning called the grammar translation method, which is like what you were describing at schools in Brazil, uh, and basically you have text and you have to translate it to the other language, sometimes without even speaking at all, right? Just writing it. And so this is called, it's like the classic approach to language learning, and they usually call it grammar translation method. And so this method, I don't think it's so effective, right? But I think that a lot of different methods have something good about them, even if it's mostly not good. There can be something good about it, I think. And I think especially with like very beginner, zero level students, that some basic translation can help them to feel like they've mastered words. Uh, so like, so I'll give you an example. I had a question like this from a teacher at my school in Russia. She was Russian, and she's teaching beginner level students in Russia. And she asked me, Kris, how much I try not to translate it all in my class. I try not to speak Russian at all in my class. How much should I speak it? How much should I do it? Because sometimes I see that I'm just wasting time explaining something when two words could explain it differently. And so I told her that basically you just have to be able to speak more of the target language of English more than the other. So I told her to basically take this strategy, like you say the word in the first language first. So let's say like wall, and in Russian the word wall is stina. So she would go stina wall, 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 stina wall. So now we said wall like 8 times. We said the Russian word like 2 times, but the person who's learning it has a clear association now, and they themselves repeated the English word. So like, because it would be difficult for me to say like, oh, you know, the thing that's over here. I mean, I could touch it because it's a real object, right? So, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't physically display this thing. So I don't think I'm 100% against translation, but I think that it has its place with lower levels. But yeah, thinking in English, thinking in the language that you want to operate in, it's super important. I studied Russian when I was in Russia. I didn't know it before I went there. So and then at some point, I remember when I started to have dreams in Russian, and I was like, oh wow, I'm actually thinking in Russian, and some phrases, some interactions became faster. And I don't think it was because I became better at Russian. I think it's because I went through that situation again and again and again and again. And that was my method of learning a foreign language. The best result that I got from myself learning a foreign language was I tried something and people told me that that was wrong or that was right. And then I said, okay, if this is right, then what's the next step? And what's the next step? I even used the internet. I would write people a message in Russian. I'd be like, hi. And then they would write me back. And I found that there was like 5 or 6 main responses that they would write me back. And so this was like level 1. And then I would go to the next step and try to take the conversation with the random person to the next level and find out all the different options there. And so you're building like a mind map of words, and this lets you not have to translate, right? Because you've started to create that connection of all of those things in your mind.
And one thing is said that I totally agree with you is that the teacher should translate from the mother tongue to the target language. Because when you do that, you create the habit of translating from, in my case, Portuguese to English. The problem is when the students start translating from English to Portuguese because they are creating the other habit. Like, oh, I'm gonna think in Portuguese and then I will take everything I hear and everything I want to say in English and always check back in Portuguese. That would take a long time, a long effort. But if they are just translating from their language to the language they want to learn, that works much better because they're creating this habit. I tell my students too, I always say, like, oh, no translation, no translation. But there is a class I give them, actually not in the basic one, because usually in the basic I try to break that pattern that they came from schools, like, oh, we're going to translate everything, just to make them see that it's possible to not translate anything at all. But when they get
Yeah.
to intermediate or even basic 3, pre intermediate, low intermediate, I start making them make mind exercises of thinking in English. And to do so, they have to think in Portuguese many times. Like, oh, you're gonna start narrating the situations you're doing. For example, now I am talking. Oh, I don't know how to say talking in English, so I'll have to search. So
Right.
I tell them to use Lingui, which is a great website because it shows the contexts instead of just giving the answer. And
Mm-hmm.
they have to go there, investigate the word to discover how it's said in English. And because they had to work for that, they will not forget when they receive a quick fix, the first thing they do, our mind does, is like, oh, this is too difficult. Let's stick with the easy one. It's like learning synonyms of the word but, You learn but, however, and many other ones, but you always say but. You learn so, therefore, etc., but you always say so. So, so it's the same idea. They usually stick with the easiest one. But when they have to really work for that word, they end up like, oh Oh yeah, now I'm thinking in English.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
remember the first day I also had an experience like being fluent in English was when I was in the United States for 2 weeks. I was studying at Kaplan, and there you have to study like 4 hours a day plus 3 hours of homework, so it was pretty intensive. I had no Brazilian friends, so I just used to speak English all the time. And one day I was going to school. I had just woke up and I was listening to the radio, but when you are kind of sleepy, so I was there going to the subway, listening to the radio, and I was like, "Oh, he's speaking Portuguese, of course," because I was sleepy. And then he said, "Oh, and now with you, Red Hot Chili Peppers," and I was like, "Wait, Red Hot Chili Peppers is English." I'm understanding everything. Oh my god! Woo! And then I started like dancing in the subway. In the subway station. It was really good. It was a really good feeling. And that's it. When you get immersed, that's what you get. And when you start working on thinking in English, you will end up like understanding everything. That's great. You forget you're not speaking Portuguese or you're not speaking Russian.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you can open up all kinds of new levels and possibilities of how you can use the language to achieve your goals.
I'm gonna ask you a question now. I know you don't read minds, but can you tell when somebody's thinking in their previous language, like when they don't think in English? Can you tell that?
Um, it depends. Like when I was teaching offline in a classroom and I saw those people regularly, like twice or three times a week, then yeah, usually I could see them thinking. I could see when like there was some concept that wasn't clear, so need to be explained differently. But yeah, but it's also another thing to think about is how other people perceive, how other people understand speaking a foreign language. For example, here where I live in Florida, in the United States, Spanish is the most popular second language to English. And there are many places in Florida where you can go where people only speak Spanish. And so I was with some Russian people who I was teaching English here. We went to a shopping center, and the task that I gave this student in real life, I gave them this task to go up to the person who was working there and to ask the question to find what they wanted in the store. And they walked up to the person, and the person heard them speaking with an accent from the first word. They saw that they were uncomfortable walking up to them, and then they heard them speak with an accent. And the person in the store, you know what the person said to them? Said, "I don't speak Spanish." But the person who's asking the question doesn't speak Spanish either. They're Russian. So it's like they came back to me and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. The person didn't understand me." And I was like, "Oh no, they just understood before you even approached them that you weren't thinking in English, right? They knew that from the body language coming up to the person that they weren't confident to ask this question."
It makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
lots of sense. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about your methodology of teaching?
I think that like 95% of the teachers and schools out there are using something called, or something that they call, the communicative method. Like you've pointed out today, like actually using the language, living the language, speaking the language. This is the way to help you really know it and understand it and think in it, not the grammar translation method. But today, everything is called communicative method. So there's lots of people just speaking to each other
Mhm.
and calling it, "Oh, it's communicative method." So, and they're just talking, and there's not really a lesson or learning happening. It's just people talking. So what I found was that everywhere we go around the world, people are using this thing called communicative method, and for every place, it means something completely different to them. And so what I noticed in my offline school was that the people who came and stayed and went through multiple lessons, went through a whole program, that there was some kind of friendship that was developed. There was some kind of like special understanding between people. And I started to think about it, and like, that's true in any kind of relationship. It's true when you meet any kind of person. And so thinking about that in a different language can really be helpful to think, when I'm in my home country or when I speak my first language, this is how I make friends, or this is what I like to talk about, or this, thinking about yourself in relation to other people. And so this can really be useful. For example, when you first meet a person in English, you might say hello because it's more formal. But if you're friends with the person and you speak formally, it's going to be very strange. If someone who I know comes up to me, "Good day, Kris," I don't know what I would do. I'd be like, "What did you just say?" Like, I'd be shocked, right? But if you read a textbook, then that might tell you that that's correct. And so building a relationship, the words that are correct, the right phrases, the right topics to speak about, this changes over time, depending on how well you know the person. And then there's another really important part that I found. So my methodology has these three parts. It has the communication part, where I think it's really important to produce the language, to speak the language. Just that act alone can help you understand it much better. Secondly, the relationship of think about how you're using the language to build something with a person, and that's going to go into the future. I noticed that, especially when I was in Russia, I noticed this a lot, that when I met a person, if their level of English was better than my level of Russian, then we would have an English language relationship. And if my level of Russian was better than their level of English, then we'd have a Russian language relationship. And I noticed 5 years, 10 years later, that those relationships that I started then, that still now, however we started the language, whichever language we started the relationship with, that stayed as like the main language usually. And so like building the relationships with people is really important. How are you going to make this an English language relationship, right? From the beginning. And so when you work with a teacher or a coach or a trainer for English, they give you an example. It's a model of how you build a language with someone else, build a relationship with someone else using the English language. And the last piece of this three-piece thing, communication, relationships, and the last piece is the self, yourself, thinking about how you change as a person, because now you have a new skill, you have a new tool in your toolbox that you can use to get the results that you want. So much of the internet is written in English. So by really understanding it, now you have access to more information, you have access to more opportunities. And it's not only about English. If you learn Chinese, you'll have a ton of opportunities there too. So it's just, the language is a tool, but having this tool and knowing how to use it changes how you see yourself. That now you're an English speaker, and you have to admit to yourself, even if you don't really believe it at first, to tell yourself, now I'm an English speaker.
Important. That's really important. And that's interesting that Marcia said she want to be your student. So it's totally related to the next question I was going to ask you is, who can benefit from your methods?
So I don't typically, first of all, I work with adults. I work with adults. And I don't typically work with beginner or zero level students, because everything is just in English and it's with native speakers. And in my experience, it's very difficult sometimes. And sometimes I believe not so useful when we have very low level person with a native speaker who doesn't know anything about the first language. Even if they're not going to speak, even if they're just going to speak English, at least knowing something about the first language will help them give insights to why this person is struggling to learn English, right? So basically it's people who are A2 and up. And really my focus is on speaking. So my program is it gives everyone the opportunity to have as much speaking practice as they want. Any time of the day, they can just log into the website. There's a list of lessons that are happening. They just click the button for the lesson they want, and boom, they're speaking with a native speaker and with other people from around the world. And so we have a few thousand students. They're from all over the world, different countries, and we even have some feedback videos that they sent us on our website. You can see all the different languages, over 50 different languages that they speak. So they're from a lot of different places. But yeah, so people who want to practice speaking or want to find regular speaking partners, because sometimes when you go on the internet and you just write a comment under someone's Instagram post and you're like, hey, join my WhatsApp group. It's not such an effective way to find a good speaking partner. So these are other people who are serious, who have joined this program, and they want lots of speaking practice.
And is it possible to learn English for free with you somehow?
So on YouTube, I've got over 600 video lessons, I think. And on my website, I have a free seminar that people can join. That's been really popular. Over, I think, 1.2 million people have joined it already. And then we also have this, similar to the seminar, there's a free ebook that you can just read through that material on the website too. So yeah, so we have these options for free. Unfortunately, in our nonstop speaking program, it can't be free because we also have teachers, and and they're good teachers, and we want to pay them. So it's trying to make it work for everybody, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd like to tell you that I'm one of those who watched your free seminar. It was really great.
Thank you.
I think I watched it more than once, and I did it while I was walking, like doing some exercise. So I just put my headphones and I was listening and saying, "Oh, this makes a lot of sense." And I shared it with my wife. She enjoyed it a lot too, so it was really great. One thing that I'd like to ask you, since you said you have these free lessons and you have the paid course, so
Mhm.
what are the advantages of paying for a course with you instead of just using your free material?
So all my free material is pre-recorded. All the free material is recorded. It's already made, and the paid course, it's real live speaking practice, like face to face. So that's the biggest difference. You can watch a million YouTube videos, in my opinion, but it doesn't help you with speaking practice. So this course that I offer, and really my whole focus for teaching the language, is just the small part that we call speaking. That's it. There's plenty of writing teachers and IELTS teachers and TOEFL teachers, and there's plenty of teachers out there that do other things. But when it comes to just speaking practice, that's what we do in this program.
Marcia has asked also if your classes are on Zoom.
Yeah.
And do people go there and watch the class with you, like you are there in front of them, or just the teachers and you're just with some special material?
So I do have some lessons there. In fact, on Wednesday, I'm teaching another lesson. But most of the time it's other teachers, because we have a lesson almost every hour of the day, of every day. Every hour, every day. You can just click and join, and there's a teacher. So
how many students are there in the class?
It depends on the class, like the time of the day and different factors. But like sometimes you go there and there's only like 2, 3, 4 people. Sometimes you go there and there's 15 people. I mean, it just depends on the day. And then what we did basically was we started with just one lesson every day in the beginning, and it was just me teaching by myself, one lesson every day. I did that for like a month or a little bit more than a month. And then I started bringing on other teachers. And as we got more students in our program, we just added more lessons. So I was like, okay, 100 more people joined. I'm going to add one more lesson every day. And then that's how we got to, at one point we had 50 lessons every day. That was the
That's
biggest
amazing.
point. Yeah.
I also linked your channel here down in the description below. So people who want to find out more about you, they can click there, subscribe to your channel, start
Thank you.
watching your free lessons, and also hopefully enroll in your course too. I hope my students also do that because it's a great method and we don't speak different languages literally, but I mean in terms of methodology, you're not gonna go there and see teachers speaking Portuguese, even though they don't even speak Portuguese. The other students are not Brazilians, so it's a great way for you to get in touch with different cultures as well.
Yeah.
So I really like this idea. And well, let's see if people have some questions here on YouTube. Let me open
Yeah,
it,
sure.
it up. Some people are saying you are amazing, you're the best.
Thank you so much.
Nirvana said that we are both great teachers, and she's really happy to see us doing this together. Um,
Definitely.
Many people are saying that they watched already your seminars and your lessons on YouTube.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I've got a goal to teach 10 million people English. That's my big goal. So I'm moving in that direction, but it's not going as fast as I'd like. So I'm still working,
But I'm certain that's gonna happen.
I hope so.
Eventually, that's exactly what's gonna happen. All right,
Oh, I
people
see
didn't.
Nirvana writing here in the comments.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Chris class and the meeting conversation with Anderson are amazing. Yeah.
Nirvana
Uh,
is one of our oldest students in our program, and she's always there when I go live. Always, she's awesome. She's really cool, and she's from Brazil.
I know it. She comes to all
Yeah,
my meetings.
yeah, she's great.
She goes to all my meetings, and the meetings usually happen on Sunday at 6. And she's there, and it's a free meeting that I organize for people to talk to each other. She's always there, and I already gave her some classes too. She's a great student.
Yeah, great, Nirvana. It's great to see you here too.
Oh, I have one more question to you.
Okay.
Thinking about advanced level learners, should they
hmm
use translation?
I think that when you get to the advanced level and like after that, like proficiency level, um, I think that translation becomes a different kind of. It has a different meaning for you because when you're a beginner and just starting, you're translating to understand, to try to make new meaning, but you don't have enough information to make the new meaning correctly. So you start to teach yourself some things that are not right. And like one word can have many different meanings. So when you first make that first translation, you tell yourself that 100% this word means this word. But then you find out later when you learn the language that there are many situations where this word might mean something different. And so when you get to the advanced level and proficiency level, I think the translation is more about like idioms and collocations, and you're saying like there's this special phrase where the words have a different meaning, but when you put them together, it means this. So how do I express that in another language? Can I build it from the same small pieces? In this case, I need to know the translation because maybe those small pieces are exactly the same. So there's a phrase that's exactly the same, right? So I think that I am not I'm not against translation at all. I do think that it's better. I think that you need to speak more in the target language. If you want to learn the target language, you have to speak and use it and write in it more. So it's not useful to have a whole lesson of translation and the grammar translation method. I don't think that that's the best way, but I think that advanced students can use translation to help them understand exactly some phrases and things. Yeah.
I think it's less dangerous for an advanced student to translate than for a beginner because they will not develop that, you know, they already have their flow of thinking. They will not just break their habit of not translating because they translated one word.
Right.
That's the key point. And another thing that I think it's interesting for advanced level learners when they try to translate is that they're gonna see the sentence structure. It's a lot different, the sentence structure in Portuguese, for example, and in English. And they are able to compare this. They're able to see, oh yeah, there's a much shorter way to say this in English. There's a much shorter way to say this in Portuguese. Or these two words look the same, but when we really understand the context they use it in the United States and the context they use it in Brazil or even the United States versus England, you're gonna see that many times they use the same sentence for different situations.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest point of understanding the words deeply and not only the translation, but you're gonna be able to just put the words into context and see, oh yeah, in, in Brazil I would use it in a totally different situation. And here in
Yeah.
English, we're gonna use it for a totally different thing. It's like I in Italian, you speak Italian, so when they say io te voglio bene, it's I
Uh-huh.
love you. It's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
you. And io ti amo, they don't use so much or as much as io te voglio bene. And in Portuguese, if you say, you would say eu quero o seu bem, but it would be like I want the best for you, not I love you. You
It's
know,
not
it's like I
romantic.
want you to have great opportunities in life. So
Yeah,
you go
yeah.
to Italy and then you say, "Oh yeah, io te voglio bene," and people will look at you like you tell that to a guy, you know, "Hey bro, io te voglio bene." He will say,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah, yeah. This is
So
a great example. And I actually use this example too when I comparing these meanings because yeah, it's a really good example from Italian of how the translation, like in English, there's not a good translation of this. We only have I like you, I love you, that's it. Really. Like maybe I adore you or something, uh but yeah, exactly. There's a lot of situations like this when we're and that's why translating can be fun when you have a high level, a high enough level to go and look at it and think that it's fun, not think that this 100% equals this. Like it can be fun for advanced or proficiency students of any language to see a text in the other language and then try to make it like street language, like real life language, because how many different ways are there to say, for example, hi, right? Like in Portuguese and Spanish and Italian, there's plenty of different slang and hi and funny things that you can say. So, in English, maybe it says, hey there. And how can you translate that to, are you just going to translate it like it's a hello? Or are you going to translate it like some other fun phrase that you can use in the language, right? So this is where the advanced student can like bring the translation to life.
and you're saying lots of things about conversation. And when does the reading take place? I mean, should students use subtitles while they're learning, like watching a video with subtitles, or should they just jump into English with no subtitles and try to understand it by body language? By the way, do you use this body language together with your method? Do you think the intonation is important as well?
Absolutely.
So there are two questions, right? The subtitles and the other ways of
Yeah.
communicating.
Well, body language and intonation, I think it's really important to include. And I think that a lot of teachers overlook that. And there's really a lot that you can convey, a lot of meaning that you can send just just communicating with your body. Yeah, my time living in Italy helped me understand that because there's so many movements that people do when they're speaking in Italy, right? But but the first question about subtitles, I think that usually what I advise people to do when they want to watch films is I say that, first of all, if you have a lower level, you should probably watch something for children before watching Terminator or something for adults. Second of all, I would recommend watching it the first time with subtitles in your own language and listen for with or without subtitles in your own language. But the first time you watch it, you listen for words that you don't know and you pause. You pause like every 30 seconds or 20 seconds. Whenever there's a word or a phrase that you don't know, you pause and you write it down, and then you keep going and you pause and then you write it down, and when you write it down, you look at what it means. You try to understand why they said it in this context. So you do that for the whole episode or whatever you're watching. Then then you're going to go and review these words without watching again to relearn them. Then you're going to watch the same thing again. You already have your list of words. And instead of subtitles, if you had subtitles the first time, you turn them off. And now you just use these words. So you go through, and if you don't understand again, you pause and you look back at these words. So it should already be in your list. And you're like, I didn't remember that one, right? And so you might mark it. Okay, this one's hard for me to remember. And then and so this is my method that I recommend, that they go through it once, pause, 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 pause. It's not fun. It's studying. You go through it the second time, it's a little more fun, and you have your notes. And then if you watch it again, by the third time, you'll really start to understand a lot more.
It sounds good. Usually, I recommend them to watch the first time with subtitles in Portuguese, just to get rid of their anxiety of knowing what's gonna happen in the episode, and then they can go through studying. Because that's what you said. It's not fun. So maybe so they can keep feeling like English is fun. Especially for those who are a little afraid of English, I always tell them, "Oh yeah, try to have fun with English. So watch it first, subtitles in Portuguese. Don't worry, you're just getting acquainted to the sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not gonna associate much if you're basic, but if you are advanced, it's gonna be amazing. You're gonna just see how people mistake during the subtitle construction. How many mistakes are there, or how many things are nonsense in the subtitles. Because here in Brazil, I don't know about other countries, but here in Brazil, when they make subtitles, they just translate everything
Yeah.
literally, like word by word. And then you say, this subtitle is a little odd. So if you already know a little of English, you can have fun by reading the subtitles in Portuguese. And later they go through the studying process. Usually I tell them to not use subtitles at all, as you said, because I think they kind of they harm their pronunciation when they read subtitles. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, an American would say the word mobile and they would read and they learned like mobile. Not that this pronunciation doesn't exist, but that's not what they're listening to at that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
they try to adapt to what they expect, or they will read even mobili because it's our alphabet would be mobili. So instead
Right.
of reading mobile, they would read mobili, and they could swear like, oh yeah, they said mobili. No, no, they didn't say mobili. They said mobile. No, I heard mobili. I had some students who just said who I have some students up to nowadays who you say something and after they read they stop being able to pronounce it correctly, and then you say, oh, but you were just speaking it right. Oh no, that's correct, isn't it? No. And it's like, what's the correct one? Mobile. And what I said, mobili. And what's the correct? Mobile. And what I said, mobili. So it's like, infinite mistake pronunciation because of their reading. And usually we tend to read more than we listen.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're reading, usually especially when we are speaking, there are many people who kind of imagine the words on a blackboard here, and they are reading the words, and that's something I can see when they are speaking, because they tend to speak wordy by wordy with some extra syllables. So it's very clear that they are like reading in their mind, you know? And
Yeah.
when they watch something with subtitles, I see like they have this pollution. And I had another question that I just forgot now. It was the subtitles, and the other one was the.
Oh, I forget. We already. I think we covered that one too, though.
Yeah, you
Um,
started with that. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So for now, I think this is it, Chris. Let me just see if somebody's asking anything else. If they want to take the course, where should they go?
So they can go to krisamerikos.com. Um,
And
and
how can I spell Kris
with K.
Amerikos? With
Yeah,
K,
with K.
right?
In both words with K. Yeah.
Very good. So
Yeah.
krisamerikos.com, and they're able to do everything there, right?
Yeah, they can join the free seminar if they like that. Then they can decide if they want to go to the speaking program. So, I usually suggest that they try to make sure that the free seminar was valuable enough for them first,
Okay.
and just people who like that go to the speaking program. Yeah.
All right. I'm really glad we could work together today. It was a very good call. I think people benefit a lot. I'm going to leave
Thank
it
you so much for
recorded
inviting
for.
me.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to leave it recorded so those who want to watch it later, you can rewatch, investigate the pronunciation, investigate if you were able to understand everything Chris was saying, especially those who are already used with my accent. It's great to get in touch with the American one, you know? So I think it's great for people to train with your English. I'm gonna also turn it into a podcast episode, and I'm gonna put it on Spotify.
Great.
So for those who follow the English room on Spotify, you're gonna be able to watch it, to listen it there too. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Great.
Chris.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.